Power Talk, brought to you by ABB. Power and productivity for a better world.
One day, every home will have one. This is solar panel importer Scientech showroom, selling what many African nations hope will be the foundation of tomorrow's energy. Herbert Taubner has been in this business for 35 years.
This is a solar hybrid system, what consists of a complete solar system, a backup generator, a UPS system, a battery bank, and all the electronic gear what controlling it. So the concept is done in such a way that basically this building will be never out of power. In certain areas it's climbing slightly. Unfortunately, solar is still a very expensive commodity and not many people can afford that.
South Africa has next to no power produced by renewable energy sources. Of the country's 40,000 megawatts of installed capacity, only 8 megawatts is produced by renewable energy.
That is the extent of what I'd call utility-scale renewable energy in South Africa at this very moment. So you can say it is next to nothing. It is nothing more than perhaps a mild public relations exercise.
The country's 20-year energy roadmap, known as the Integrated Resource Plan 2010, shows that whilst hydrocarbons, coal, diesel and gas will still form the bulk of their energy mix, their overall contribution will drop from 86% to 57%, whilst nuclear will increase from 4% to 13%, and renewables by even more, 5% to 26% of the mix in 20 years' time. That's why Basil Reed Energy is diversifying away from traditional mining into renewable energy. Director Ian Curry is developing Basil Reed's portfolio of clean energy projects, including a R1.2 billion 80-megawatt wind farm in Beaufort West. But the National Energy Regulator's cut in the renewable energy feed-in tariffs puts a dent in Basil Reed's plans to feed wind turbine power into the grid by the end of next year.
On some of the projects, it really puts them in a very marginal situation, yes. For the large international players, they are seriously going to be looking at those other alternatives. I know our partners, we partnered with a large international company in one of our wind farms, and they're certainly looking elsewhere.
The reality is that these renewable feed-in tariffs will be reviewed once a year. And as the prices of renewable energy, the cost of installing renewable energy generation drops, as it is going to do over time. So we are likely to see prices for the installed capacity significantly reduce over the years. And this is the benefit to the customer. And it's the job of the regulator to look after the customer and ensure that these price reductions are passed on to the customer. In fact, NERSA's role is not to guarantee the profits of the industry, but to ensure that they get a fair rate of return on capital invested.
NERSA hopes to solve the matter through public hearings.
The regulator is following due process. And to date, I mean, we've been involved in this renewable energy space really, for the past 5 or 6 years. And NERSA has been very good in considering industry players' opinion, and when they go out for public comment, that public comment is taken into consideration.
Solal Africa's Mark Emmerman plans to build a R3 billion 75-megawatt concentrated solar plant in the Northern Cape. He, like many other investors, was lured by NERSA's attractive 2009 renewable energy rates. But he says it's not an industry for the faint-hearted.
Risk and delay. Operating in an environment that's uncertain is very difficult for investors who are putting a lot of money on the line without knowing black and white as to what will happen and when it will take place. For me personally, that's actually the opportunity itself, because if it was simple and straightforward, everyone would be doing it.
This lack of clear direction for an industry in its infancy is unnerving for some independent power producers.
The various government entities or government departments that are influencing renewable energy projects seem to be working in silos. You're finding the National Energy Regulator publishing this tariff review, and the Department of Energy saying, well, they didn't even know that this document was coming out.
South Africa's hosting of the COP17 carbon talks this year, and President Zuma's commitment to reduce carbon emissions by 34% by 2020 means the country's largest emitter of CO2 gases, state-owned power utility Eskom, needs to get its act together. It plans to build a 200 megawatt wind turbine project in the Western Cape and a 100 megawatt solar power plant in the Northern Cape. But the 300 megawatts of clean energy pales against other carbon-heavy projects on the go, like the 4,300 megawatt Medupi and Kusile coal-fired plants. It'll certainly be a juggling act for the energy regulator at the revised tariff public hearings in May, where it must hear the case of renewable energy developers against those of ordinary South Africans who must pay for South Africa's clean energy drive. In the meantime, those smaller players like Scientech are already hard at work making their mark on South Africa's green revolution.